Alright, so let's keep going with this idea of trying to find a matrix form for a transformation. So suppose that we've got some letter on the left that's written in regular 12-point font, and we want to go ahead and change it into something that is in italics in 16-point font. And we want to find a way to define a matrix that'll do this. So what will help is if we can kind of use this grid to identify some key points. So all the points should map, but we only kind of need to focus on a couple of key, easy to identify vertices here. So here we might consider this bottom left corner of each of the ends to be the 0, 0 point, kind of our origin. And so from here we can go ahead and look at counting these dashed lines in order to figure out where our points are. So maybe this next point is 1, 2, 3 up, so it is 0, 3. This corner down here is 1, 2, so it is 2, 0. And this corner up here will be 2, 3. So the idea is our matrix that we have should be able to take in 0, 0 as a point and send it to 0, 0. Up here we have the point 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So up here is the point 1, 4. So our point 0, 3 should become 1, 4. Down here we again have 2, 0. And then up here we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have the point 2, 3 should become the point 3, 4. So the first question we might want to ask ourselves is, how big should this matrix be? What should the size of our matrix be? So I want you to take a moment and figure out if you can figure out the dimensions of this matrix, and then from there we can go ahead and try to figure out and ascertain what the matrix looks like. Alright, so if you're still struggling with the idea of what the size of this matrix should be, remember that we're taking some AX and having it be equal to B. So X here is going to denote our vector of points that we are starting with, and B is going to denote our vector of points that we are ending up getting. And so note that the size of X is 2 by 1, right? So if we have a vector here, we should have 2 rows and 1 column. And same for our B's, we should have 2 rows and 1 column. So if we're trying to determine our dimensions for A, blank by blank, recall that in order for us to be able to multiply A and X, these two have to match. Our inside dimensions, our number of columns of A has to match the number of rows of X. So we should have 2 of these columns for A. And note that the outside dimensions here, the number of rows of A and the number of columns of X, have to match the number of rows and columns for our output. So these have to match as well. And so that means that A should be a 2 by 2 matrix. So we don't know what its entries are yet. So right now we're just going to call A some A, B, C, and D. And so the idea is we want to be able to take some of these points that we have up here and use them in order to multiply A by something in order to figure out what A, B, C, and D are. So for example, the point 0, 0 is going to become 0, 0. So that comes from us taking A, B, C, D times 0, 0 and getting an output of 0, 0. Now note if we actually did this multiplication, we would get on this side 0 times A plus 0 times B for the first entry, and 0 times C plus 0 times D, and have that be equal to 0, 0. So maybe this point's not the most helpful for us. But we have other points. So for example, we know that the point 0, 3 is supposed to become the point 1, 4. And we know that the point 2, 0 is still the point 2, 0 by the time we're done transforming it. So maybe take a minute and use these to see if you can solve for A, B, C, and D, and then come back. Okay, you're back? Great. So now let's take A, B, C, D times the point 0, 3. And our goal is to set it equal to 1, 4. So let's do this multiplication. We have 0a plus 3b in the first row, and 0c plus 3d in the second row. And so we get that 3b and 3d equals 1, 4. Okay, well if 3b equals 1, that tells us that b equals a third. And if 3d equals 4, that tells us that d equals 4/3. All right, so now we have some of our information that we're looking for, and we can use that when we get to this point. So here, and we'll just use A, B, C, and D again. We could plug in the information we know, but maybe we'll save that in case we need it. So A, B, C, D times 2, 0 will give us 2a plus 0b and 2c plus 0d. And so what we end up getting is 2a and 2c equals 2, 0. All right, so with that information, if 2a has to equal 2, then a equals 1. And if 2c equals 0, tells us that c equals 0. So now we know what these individual components of our matrix should be. So that tells us then that A equals 1, a third, 0, and 4/3. So that's able to help us figure out what A is as a matrix. Okay, so now that we know what A is, we know how to go from some 12-point font to, say, italic 16-point font. What we want to do is we want to use this information to try to transform this image with the same matrix. And so on the next page on the ice, there are 4 options, A, B, C, and D. So what I want you to do is I want you to in the discussion boards, talk about which of these options, A, B, C, and D, ends up being the correct image for this transformation once we've done and multiplied each of the points by the matrix A. And, defend your choice, or any of those choices are correct. Maybe there's none of them that are correct because I made a typo. And, give it a shot. See what you think. Discuss it.